Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, we are live. For the thousands of Nuggeteers in attendance, okay, possibly one family member, and the millions of Nuggeteers watching from around the world, okay, maybe 5 from Wisconsin, 2 from Illinois, and 1 from Texas. Temporarily Offline Radio presents Ham Nuggets, the fastest hour in ham radio YouTube. 60 minutes is 60 minutes. Yeah, I know. And now, here is your host, the man, the myth, the legend, if even in his own mind, KM9G, otherwise known as T.O.
Howdy, everybody. This is Steve, KM9G. And if you just came over from Chuck's video, you will notice that he's wearing a bright blue Yaesu hat to sort of offset his carbon footprint of having an ICOM radio in his previous video there.
Yeah, I really blew it testing an antenna with a 5-watt radio.
Well,
what you were thinking, man.
If it would have worked really well, then you would have known.
Well, yeah. When you're trying to guys with 1,500 watts trying to break pileups, it's kind of tough to beat those guys.
Just gonna give him that
welcome all.
Chuck voice.
Huh?
I said you just got to get that smooth Chuck voice, and they'll just part the Red Sea for you.
That's right. That's what happens usually.
So this is the Ham Nuggets, the change in format that we've been doing here for a while, where we just try to explore the space of something relatively new to us in amateur radio. And something that's relatively new to me in amateur radio is fox hunting. I tried it once. I kind of liked it, but I didn't know what I was doing. And so we're going to talk a little bit about how to get started and maybe share some tips. And hopefully one of us, maybe even me, might learn something tonight. I'm joined by some of our fantastic Coffee and Ham Radio's co-hosts. If you're not subscribed to the Coffee and Ham Radio's channel, we'll put a link to that in the chat in a minute or so. But I wanted to welcome Ham Radio Dude. Dude, how are you doing tonight?
Hey, I'm good, thanks. Sorry, I thought I was muted, so I'm like, but I'm well. Glad to be here. Thank you very much.
That's awesome. And you're working on a new project over there. Are you close enough you want to talk about it, or is it still too top secret?
No, it's fine. Not many people have a Zygu X6100.
Only the 12 of us that are putting out thousands of videos a day.
Yeah, but basically, Zygu has keyboard shortcuts. If you plug a USB keyboard in, there's keyboard shortcuts. And I think using a Raspberry Pi Pico, and I have some keyboard buttons on the way here, just like I did with the FT8 box, we'll be able to automatically control the voice memories and the CW memories. So we'll be able to, like, if you're out in the field, you don't want to have to go through the menu every time you want to call CQ, or maybe you want to be on your main screen. Well, this should rectify it, and it's small and compact. You can fit it in your pocket, you know.
Excellent.
So, yeah.
Sounds like fun.
I think that's the only. Or are you talking about the other projects?
Sure.
Sure.
Oh,
Batman.
that is sexy. I like that.
The Bat Tenna. Yeah.
Yeah. How much wire you got on there?
Just on this one side, I don't know. It's like I was just wrapping it to see. It's probably like 35 feet, probably.
Oh, excellent.
Just an odd number.
It's random.
It's random, man.
Yeah.
It's got to be.
So I wanted to first start off talking about some ways to make a Fox. And a Fox is basically just a transmitter, and we all happen to have quite a few of those, and we probably have enough spares to make this kit. And so I put a list of items that you might need, like a shopping list, down in the description of the video where you can get some really cheap stuff to make this happen. But the first thing you're going to need is a box to put it in. This is just an example of an ammo can that I have, which was probably way too close to be seen. There we go, just an ammo can. This is the zombie battery box that I made. And what you can do is just use that as a kind of a box to keep it relatively weatherproof, because you're going to drill a hole in it for the antenna, or maybe not. It might not wind up staying waterproof. But the simple simple cheap Fox that I have uses one of these old-fashioned MP3 players that you probably have 3 or 4 of in a junk drawer somewhere. And as long as you have one that has a repeat function on it, you're good to go. What you would do is record some noise, not necessarily like a copyrighted commercial song or something like that, but just some noise, any noise to put out on the airwaves, your call sign maybe in Morse code or maybe just speak it, and then some silence. And you want to make sure that it's as silent as possible because you want to unkey the Vox circuit. The next thing you're going to need is a real simple 3.5 millimeter audio cable to plug the output of your cheap MP3 player into. And then you plug this into the side of your Baofeng, which I've got my yellow Fang here for display. And there's only one that it fits into because the other one is the microphone cable, and that's 2.5. So now I have my complete Fox that I will shove into an ammo box, and then I've got my Fox in an ammo box, and we're good to go. You can mount the antenna on the outside. That ammo box is all plastic, so you could probably still keep it on the inside. But they make real simple extension cables that you can use to get this thing mounted on the outside. And if you set the Baofeng to be Vox mode, whenever this thing stops being silent, it will start sending out your signal. I needed to shrink the audio cable down. I tried to find the cheapest 3.5 millimeter audio cable that I could, and one of the tricks that you want to do to make this thing weak and unable to transmit and all kinds of other fun stuff like that is use really cheap stuff, like cheap audio cables so the sound isn't very good, and low quality MP3 player because you're not looking for audio fidelity, and possibly a high Q antenna or one of those stubby little antennas that they sell to put on top of your Baofeng would work well also. And then you need some tools, and another Baofeng will do it. So you could be all in for less than $100 on this. The radio is $25. The audio cable was $1. It actually cost more to ship it. The MP3 players are like $20, and then the ammo box, if you don't already have one, is $8 or $9. I've got a couple of links down below. And then we start talking about antennas. You're going to need a directional antenna. So KB9 VBR has a fantastic directional antenna. Let me get a link for it. It's made out of some PVC pipe and some cut up old tape measure. And Chuck, you've got some antennas that you use for that also.
Well, I've got the elk and my my little homemade Yagi. They're probably a little overkill for this because you're definitely going to need some kind of attenuation once you get somewhat close. But I also have that antenna I did the $7 or 7 dB. That would actually work pretty good too. It's a little heavier, but it's made with PVC, so that would be an easy one to do. The other ones might be a little too much. I tell you the truth, I watched Michael's video today on his with that antenna, and it was almost seemed like it was too much once he finally found it, because he had
too
like
much antenna.
Yeah, he had quite the attenuator. It had like he set up like 100 or something like that. He had like 5 different switches he could switch on it, and he was still overpowering it because he was so close.
So the ends on this tape measure, that once you cut it, they get to be really sharp. So I put some red electrical tape on it so I don't cut myself. And the cool thing about using the tape measure is that if you're hiding your Fox out in a park somewhere that has a lot of trees, you can, it'll fold in as you walk through the trees instead of getting hung up on everything. And so this is just a bunch of Jubilee clips or hose clamps on the side here that hold the antenna elements. And then the antenna elements themselves it's a tape measure, so it's got measurements on it. And then down here, I went to Amazon, and there's a link in the description down below for this. It's an SMA pigtail that'll go right into your other Baofeng radio. And I was able to cut it open. I'm now trying not to hit myself with it. I was able to cut it open on the other end, so you get a nice long wire, and you can make 2 of these. I was able to cut it open on the other end and solder the braid and the center conductor to each side. These lower elements can go all the way through, and you can see here that it's just going right over. But this one here needs to be cut in the center. And then Michael had this this matching stub here that does connect them back, and I've seen these with and without the matching stub. So I'm not sure if it's effective or necessary, but I've seen it without. So probably not 100%
That
necessary.
matching stubs is similar to what antenna makers will use. Like M Squared uses those a lot for their antennas. You know, the other thing with that antenna you could probably do, especially if you don't have an attenuator or something, you could probably fold that front one in.
Yep.
And then if as you get closer, you could probably fold the back one in and use that just as a dipole. And which way does that? Which way? You didn't show which way they should have that antenna for FM, did you?
I did not. Tell us about it.
Should be vertical, guys. But tell you the truth, when you get closer, you might turn it sideways because you will lose a little bit there.
That's like your natural attenuation right there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because automatically
That will
when you go
attenuate.
from vertical to horizontal or vice versa, isn't it like 12 dB loss? Something along
I
those
think
lines?
I don't think it's that much, but it's. I mean, I was thinking 3 or 6, but I don't remember.
I'll
I
get
know
the
that.
answer.
I know that the M
right
Squared
back.
Mike from M Squared told me to take an antenna and set it sideways, and it'll work pretty good on both vertical and horizontal.
Yeah.
At a 45.
The gangster.
Now I've
Yeah,
noticed
got
on
that
this
gangster
here,
look.
if I'm
Yes, sir.
talking to the local repeater and I turn the radio sideways, the repeater is gone. So
Right.
you'll witness that yourself also.
I'll read this here. There's an approximate 20 dB cross polarization loss between vertical and
20.
horizontal.
Wow.
Yeah, when the signal is received.
So that could be your attenuation as you get closer to.
So you mentioned attenuation, and one of the things that I ran into when I did my first fox hunt was I didn't have an attenuator set up. I had no way of attenuating the signal, and that's a big fancy word, but what we're talking about there is as you finally get to the point where you're in the same park or in the same parking lot or in the same vicinity of the Fox itself, the signal coming out of the Fox is so strong that you can actually hear it without even having an antenna on your radio. So I took the antenna off of my radio and I could still hear the signal. So I put it up against my chest and tried to turn around. So I was
Use your body.
attenuating the signal and it was still too strong. So I stood on the other side of my pickup truck with the door open. So I'm like inside the truck almost. And I knew where the Fox was at that point. I could still hear the signal. So there's a device you can get that's called an attenuator that will actually turn the signal down and down and down and down. And it's like kind of a series of resistors, right, Chuck?
Yeah. Didn't Michael did he have a build on that also? I can't
Probably.
remember. Somebody had build. The other thing he mentioned too, and you said Bofang. Bofang is not the best handheld to use because the
not.
meters the meter always shows full when you receive something. Well, some of the Bofangs, I only have a few. Maybe Dude has some that actually do have a decent meter that actually shows actual signal strength. But if most like a UV5R, that thing will show full. If it gets a signal,
an
it's full
on-off
signal every
light,
time.
yeah.
Right.
So there is a Baofeng DM1801, which is the same as the GD77. They're DMR radios, but since the firmware has been hacked and there's custom firmware on there now, it'll actually give you a signal level of
That's good.
what your signal is. So it really does help. Used to use Motorola's also for signal finding because Motorola, like the really expensive ones, the 7000, APX 7000s, they have like an actual readout too as far as like what the signal strength is. And it makes it a lot easier because if you're swaying this way and you're getting higher and then you start to sway this way, that your direction is this way. It really helps out. It's not necessary, but you are right, Chuck. I mean, you got to be careful. Some radios will just show you its full signal.
Hey man, I just did some last minute cramming about 3 hours ago, so it's fresh in my mind and everything. I've been
Chuck
working
was
on my trailer.
Well,
I've never tried Fox Hunt, but I mean, I had a guy tell me once that he could find us. I go, "You're never gonna find me on my motorcycle, dude."
No, I can go
take-
faster than you can walk.
That's right.
take a step back too and kind of discuss what fox hunting is like really good for, because there might be some people here who aren't sure, like why fox hunt, what's the purpose. And it's a practice for real world simulations, for anything from tracking down interference to maybe tracking down somebody who's lost.
Right.
And with that as well, I would probably recommend that if you're going to go all out and have fun fox hunting, because it is a fun time, you might want to actually bring a map of the area with the terrain and everything too. And that way you can plot out where you are but
what
also
else?
the other people in the area can plot out where they are, and you guys could triangulate where that fox,
Yeah,
where the
that's
beacon might be.
that's good, dude. Because that was one of the things I had written down too, is a map and a compass. He was actually drawing lines with his compass, the directions
Yeah.
basically what he was doing was triangulating it in.
Yeah, so now
pretty
you're
good
learning.
video.
Now you're learning land navigation as well as map reading, which goes with
Right.
land nav as well.
Okay, so I don't know if Max has this in a more expensive fashion or in a cheaper fashion than what I have it in. It depends on what his hourly rate is. But Max says that he just stood there with the Baofeng in his hand and held the PTT button and hooked it up to a CW practice box. So he was the Fox.
You
There's
could.
different types. There's different. There's something else I found. There's different types of. There's mobile transmitter hunts. There's pedestrian transmitter hunts and fixed location transmitter hunts. So there's different types. I got that off of Wikipedia.
And if you are
something
the
like that.
Fox, I mean, there's nothing wrong with holding down the PTT, but fortunately, technology's come a long way, and there's plenty of devices that'll kind of automate it for you.
Yeah.
Arduino, for example. Which one is that?
This is actually a
Oh.
kit that Becca put together, and she got this at the Youth on the Air club camp that came last summer. And the whole group put this together as a kit, and I tell you what it is, but there's no name on it. What I'll do is I'll link you to her video that has it. And this is actually, in the general portion of the band, this is an 80-meter Fox. And so it's got its own built-in mini dipole, and it runs off of a 9-volt battery, and it just puts out its own signal that's baked into the chip already.
Oh,
The
it does
chip's kind of
everything.
pre-programmed. So that does everything. And then you have to use an 80-meter Fox finder, and this will get you most of the signal through the whip antenna that comes out. And again, it's not an 80-meter resonant antenna, it's just for receiving. And then these little stubs that come out of the side here, there's actually an iron rod in there that you use for finding nulls, because it only listens in one direction and not in both directions. And then there's a tuner on the side to kind of tune in better to where you are, and a volume setting. But I don't think there's any attenuation built into this. It's just turning it left and right that does it.
Yeah. And, so the Arduino will actually program, or, well, you could automate it to randomly CW ID and all this stuff, too. I mean, obviously, you have to be around the device because you have to be in control of it. But, it just makes it a little bit easier. And Nico mentioned, hey, what about APRS? And yeah, APRS could work, and in fact, if you were like really wanting to get cool in the technical world about things, is everybody who's doing it could have APRS, and then you could map their plot or their data points, where they were, how close they were. Like, hey, you missed it when you went by it. If you're going to recap for scenarios of, like, for example, finding some person,
That would be
drove right
great
by
for
that person.
teamwork too.
It would.
But it would not be great for a competitive setting, because you'd be telling everybody where your position
Sure.
was, and they would just
Right.
they just wait like 5
Sure.
minutes before you found it, watching you circle in on the target. Oh, it must be there.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a fair point, and I think that's also another fair point too. Is some people do it as a competition, and some people do it as a team building exercise, which is really cool. There's a lot of different equipment. As we mentioned, you could just use a radio. You could use that device that T.O. just had. You could use, a Doppler. You could use a Doppler. You have several plus antennas on your vehicle, and it will help you do the same thing that the device T.O. has. I've known people to use spectrum analyzers to do direction finding as well. But it's all in efforts to know something. So when the time comes to actually be able to use those skills, you have acquired them. You've mastered them essentially. I wanted to mention one more thing real quick.
Oh,
You had a Yagi, and one of the nice things to do about a Yagi is to 3D print something for a Yagi handle, and then you could put your radio and clip your radio right in here, your Baofeng right in here.
did you just print that up today?
No, I've had this one. This is from my last year's broomstick.
Yeah.
But you could put I found it on Thingiverse, but you could put your Baofeng right in there, or whatever has some kind of signal meter. So as you're walking around, you could also see the signal without looking at your radio. You're freeing up a hand essentially.
Right.
Anyway,
That would be good.
Very cool.
So this is the QRP Guy's 31 dB step attenuator, and as you can see from the pictures as they flash by, there's a schematic, and then there's kind of a overview diagram, and then there's the actual attenuator there, and you put this inline in your antenna, and then you have a bypass switch is your first switch, and then you can add in attenuation 1, 1, 3, 6, 10, and 10. And if you do the math on how those switches are, 1 plus 10 is 11 dB attenuation, 10 plus 10 plus 1 is 21 dB. See, that's kind of math I can do on stream. And so you're able to get up to 31 dB of attenuation, which is making the signal weaker and weaker as it comes in. And this is a pretty simple kit to put together yourself.
Yeah, that'd probably take you
less
10
than an hour.
minutes.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's really useful to have, especially if you're using really high-end equipment like a $20,000 spectrum analyzer. You want to make sure that as you're getting closer to that device that's putting out RF power,
It's been retired.
you're attenuating it.
Of course it has.
But you can get the bare boards.
There you go.
I think I
Keep
have
talking.
all those.
Oh,
resistors.
that's it.
You know who actually Soda Beams might have that also. Come to think of it, maybe.
A lot of people make them. I just really like QRP
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah.
I also think that if you were doing a pedestrian fox hunt, you guys are walking around looking for the fox. Not only does it teach you, like we mentioned, reading maps and everything, but preparing yourself for uncertain elements that may occur, like weather conditions, and maybe packing the right amount of food, and actually just having water. I love water.
Is that one a newer version, Tio?
This is the newer version. Let me see before I get everybody's hopes up. I know I was already hurting Nico's feelings there. Yeah, this one's $20. It's still available. 50 ohms. It goes
Yeah,
up
a lot less
to
parts.
10, 20, or 30 dB. So they made it a little bit smaller, probably a more affordable kit. And then you can use BNC or SMA.
Oh, you can't
So-
get both?
Yeah, so one less adapter that
okay.
you need.
Yeah. Does it come
So-
with both, or you order it with both, with either one?
Probably order it with one or the other.
Says with with that one says with
With user supplied SMA connectors, so they probably don't even supply them.
Oh,
No, I'm
But it
not.
has both
I'm not a
of
math
those.
major. I've got a nice long algebra story that I can tell you if you're a member of the channel during our supporters meeting. Yeah, not good at math. That's why I sit in front of a computer all day. I sit in front of a very large calculator. Why would I need to know math? Not to offend any math nerds, it's just not for me. So this one here, you can put 10 dB in or 20 dB in, or you can put 10 dB and 20 dB in for 30 dB. So there's a little bit of a switch there. The dog has been corrected. Which dog was that, Chuck?
That was the lab.
Dude's like, I know that bark. So, yeah. And, dude, you had some antennas that you wanted to show?
You know what? I didn't grab them. They're all over. I know, but all they are is Yakis, and you've seen one Yaki, you've seen them all. But I guess the key is consideration. I think a tape measure Yaki is a great idea because if you're walking around, you don't want to carry a Yagi around that's this wide and doesn't collapse or easily fit in a pocket or a bag or something like that. So again, consider if you're doing mobile that you might.
Chuck, you muted yourself.
well, it's a great project too for some to learn how to build a Yagi. Kind of gets you you pretty much learn most about everything you need to know other than the sizes and stuff, and making designing your own and stuff like that. Which
Yeah.
that's a real a lot of clubs do those, right? Because I've never been in a club, but I've seen a lot of clubs build those before on YouTube.
Yeah, it's a
videos.
fantastic club build. Just a couple of PVC parts. I mean, you're probably into, what, $20 for the antenna right there? An old worn-out tape measure?
Shoot, you just go get the
Yeah.
free one from Harbor Freight, right?
You go to the dollar store and probably
Sometimes.
find one, And I think
10
that's
members in your club, that's $10.
that's the thing too, is you always hear Yaki but never Uda. But that's the thing too. It really opens up your mind for the engineering aspect of things and what can you make an antenna out of, which is a whole nother set of skills, right? Because like the military teaches you how to build an antenna, but they really don't go into too much detail. So you're teaching yourself the basics in case you ever need survival. Hey, if the military's teaching you how to make an antenna for survival, maybe you should learn too.
I think my first Yagi was a full size 20-meter Yagi on just had 2 elements, but it wasn't what you call an easy one. Had to make my own gamma match and all that stuff, man.
Chuck drives around town, puts up a wire Yagi for 80 meters to find the 80-meter fox.
There's a guy in on the East Coast someplace, I want to say Virginia, that's got a 15-element 40-meter wire Yagi. His name is Chuck, I think, or Mike. Chuck or Mike.
That would be hard for you to remember.
You know, too.
why
We talked about Dopplers, we talked about the radios, and we talked about a couple other things. But really, you could also use an SDR. An SDR probably wouldn't be bad. Again, they make the Melahite. Is that right? Melahite,
Yeah.
Melachite, whatever. They make those, and they're about this big, and they have a touch screen built into them. All you gotta do is plug in an antenna and maybe a Yaki. That'd be pretty good idea too. Because for a Fox Hunt, if you're looking for it, you don't need to be able to transmit, especially if you're competing against other people. I mean, it would be nice, but just in case you hurt yourself.
And even though this is a service, they have made a lot of fox hunting competition clubs out there.
Really?
Yeah. So Rob, N1NUG from the 741 channel, has done a couple of ham radio club fox hunts as a group, and then obviously KB9VBR does a couple of those as well. And they get pretty serious about it. You got to get in your car and drive around town, and you work some triangulation skills where you go to the north side of town and take a reading and a bearing, and then you go to the south side and take a reading and a bearing, and then you go to a third side of a triangle, obviously. Take a reading from there, and then figure out whether you're on the inside or the outside, and then keep shrinking down or expanding and start getting closer and closer.
And yeah, it's a very useful tool. Exactly what you just said there is going to multiple locations to take readings and everything, because maybe you're trying to track down a source of RFI or something, power lines. You could start just here and start walking, but you might never find it if you go to multiple locations. Again, it's that triangulation kind of thing.
In Michael's video, he started from his house and he didn't say like how far away it was initially, but by using that Yagi, he was able to find it. And you could tell a Yagi will pick up both 2 directions.
It will.
Forwards and
Pretty
backwards,
decent. But one will be, you could tell which one was the right direction because it was strong. You could hear you could actually hear that it was stronger. And he could see she didn't show the actual meter, but yeah, it was pretty interesting.
So when you're pointing your Yagi antenna at the transmitter source, you'll hear it in full volume. And if you turn 180 degrees, if you turn around backwards, you should be able to hear it quieter. So that's a way that you can get your orientation if it's in front of me or behind me. And then you can start driving to what you think is the far side to see if it's farther away or if it's still in between where you thought it was. And then one of the other things that Michael's club did was on their local repeater, so you want to have 2 radios with you. On their local repeater, they would give out clues and they would chat the whole time they were doing the fox hunt, which was pretty neat. And the clues are like little riddles or puzzles or something that if you solve them, it helps narrow it down. Like it's in a
Is that
park
Michael
or it's
or
in a
Rob's?
school playground. Michael did it. I don't know if Rob did it. Rob's probably did it also, though. It's a common thing. Just makes it a little more fun.
It's interesting. I never thought about it until just now. But geocaching is a pretty popular thing out here. A lot of people go geocaching and look for hidden treasures, and in a way, fox hunting is kind of like geocaching.
I've seen where they also do a poker run where you go to the first fox and you get a card, and you go to the second fox and you get a card, and you just pick a card out of the deck, and then when you finally get to the end, or someone's sitting at the fox to hand you the card, when you finally get to the end, whatever your hand is whatever prize you get, which is pretty neat also.
That is interesting. Maybe every card you find is actually a beer.
We don't promote drinking and driving, though. You have to wait till you get to the end to have the big celebration.
A Sharps non-alcoholic beer.
It's a wooden nickel.
Right.
Yes, that's right.
It's a round to it.
But Yeah, there's just a lot you could do there as far as building your first Fox, and really it just depends on how far you want to take it.
So they're talking in the chat about using phased SDR setups. Coffee and Ham Radios is here talking about that, and then Nico says that there's some neat RTL SDR setups for that, or multiple SDRs with a common clock, and that sounds really interesting. I have not gotten into that.
Huh.
Either. No.
I'm Googling phased SDRs.
I have to check with the local club around here, find out when they actually do a fox hunt, and maybe get out there and try it.
I don't know.
I've never done it.
I was gonna say I don't know that they're really big out here. Do you all ever hear any in your areas? I mean, I don't.
I'm not really in a club, but I've been to a couple of their meetings just to check them out. But
Chuck, you've
I'm
said
sure
that
there's
enough
something
times
out
now.
there.
I'm starting to get some vibes that you might have some hurt feelings on this subject. Would you care to talk about that? Do you want to get it out?
About what?
Hey Chuck, are you part of a club?
I'm not. Nobody wanted me. No.
There's no clubs in the suburbs of Oakland that you could join?
No, the suburbs of Oakland don't have a lot of clubs. Actually, there's actually quite a few.
I got
But
him
sometimes
saying
if
it
you
now.
go a little farther north, or you're just on the border of the suburbs of Oakland. But no, I went to one of the meetings, and
Not for you.
it wasn't like they didn't accept you. They didn't really. I went with a buddy, so people knew I was with him. But I sat in one of their classes, and I just say I wasn't too impressed.
I've actually
Not
really
your kind
wanted.
of ham.
I wasn't learning anything.
I have seen this Kraken SDR, and I've really wanted this for a while.
Oh, which one?
The Kraken SDR. I'll pull it up
Kraken.
on the screen.
Oh, I think I've heard of that one.
And make sure nothing. Let me close my Discord. Hold on. This is the Kraken SDR.
Ooh, look at
When they say phased, coherent, software-defined radio, essentially it works as a Doppler.
Nice.
Yeah, pretty neat.
it's only $468,000.
No, that's how much they raised out of a $100,000 goal. It's
Oh, okay.
you could pre-order it for 300. Actually, yeah. Well, but then you have to buy the antennas too. So, yeah, it's $400. Which I guess
Might
is
as well buy that one that Ape has or built.
horrible,
Might as well buy 5 RTL SDRs.
right? And just have 5 different Raspberry Pis reporting the signal noise ratio to another Raspberry Pi, which then reads it out and tells you which way to go.
I refuse to join any club that would have me as a member. Ron has got the magic sauce right there. And then I found a picture of the inside of the receiver, and you can see that iron rod going through the center. And there's a bit of an inductor wound around. Boy, that's hard to say. Wound around the rod to be able to pick up the signals that come through there, and then it's a real simple circuit.
Looks like 2 different styles, huh? One without an antenna, one with.
Yeah, this one on. No, it's folded over.
Oh, okay. Oh,
It's
there it
coming
is.
down the
Yeah.
side here, yeah.
I see it there.
My mouse cursor is like a half-inch tall on my screen, and then it comes through StreamYard. It's just a regular mouse cursor. That kind of sucks. I went through all that trouble.
Oh, you made it bigger and everything?
Yeah.
You have to show me how to do that
people
for
be able to see
videos,
my
man.
mouse cursor.
I just move it around a lot, so hopefully they see it. See over here on the right side of the screen?
We're all like cats going, where's the mouse? Where's the mouse?
And Tio, I mean, there was like that much of my glasses showing tonight on one spot of that video, and Tio actually saw it. I couldn't believe
I
it.
saw him. Yep.
I saw it when I was doing it. It's like, oh well. I got to wear them when I start soldering and stuff. Well, I didn't even solder on that one, actually.
So real quick, right before the stream started, Gordon Farmer's Forge dropped in a super sticker. I wanted to give him a big shout out. Thank you very much for sending that over. And he was doing some amateur radio talking while gaming on his channel. So if you have a chance to visit the M7INT, the Gaming Ham channel, you'll see him play some games and talk amateur radio while he's taking care of all the bad guys.
Excellent.
Oh, I did get this today. It's been at the post office for like 2 or 3 days.
Or
It's pretty
a
nice.
week.
No, I don't know if it's been there a week. I think it got there Friday, right?
6 days. It got there Tuesday.
Well, the
Tuesday.
post office is the safe place to keep it.
No, it was you told. Well, you told me it was there Thursday. Okay, that's all I'm going by.
Maybe it was Thursday. I thought it was Tuesday. It doesn't
I only
matter.
go to
My
the
wife
post
was
office
gone.
once
She
a
had-
week, and I got mine before you got yours.
Well,
I was
my wife
surprised.
had the key with her babysitting the up in Sacramento, so I couldn't get to the post office.
I was surprised because TO's was going to arrive like the latest, and then yours was
Really?
going to arrive like Wednesday.
That's because your guys' mail is really bad right there, right?
Our mail's horrible.
You've lost a lot of stuff.
Have you guys actually heard of the guy who put the APRS in the mail package?
Yeah, I've seen that.
Might be a little bit of a violation, right?
Technically, yeah.
But how's that for a fox hunt? Let's just try to catch our package. You know, we could see it on APRS. Let's see if we can catch up to it. But,
So there's rules for unattended radio transmitters, and I guess that's how they do the high altitude balloons that circle the globe.
oh yeah.
And
Yeah, I'm gonna have to read up on
There
it
he is.
actually.
And if you're actually planning on doing a circle the globe balloon like that, you have to have a GPS in it so that it knows to stop transmitting as it crosses over countries where you're not allowed to transmit, where there's no
Very cool.
reciprocal agreement.
I mean, that's a whole nother thing too. You have a mobile fox that would be difficult on its own because we know that a mobile station is going to be harder to track down because it's constantly moving than a static station. But then you have a mobile fox, and you could probably even code it in like a Pi or something to trigger the Arduino that every time it hits a certain GPS area or location, that's when it does the ID, which would be awesome because then you could drive and focus on the road. Maybe, I don't know. Who likes to do that? But
So I liked in Rob's video where he had the Yagi on a mast sticking out the sunroof of his truck as he was driving around town trying to.
I think I did see that one.
It's been a while since I saw that one, but I did watch his. It was funny.
That one came out about a year ago, I think, right? That was a good
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He took his whole family with him.
I do.
The family that fox hunts together, something, huh?
Yeah. It would be hard to
Hunts
convince
together.
my wife to do it. She would be down for the car trip, and then I'd have to surprise her with, oh, yeah, it's actually a fox hunt.
Oh.
Oh. Had to trick her, huh?
Yeah, let's go out for coffee, hun. And then we'll stop at the coffee shop, and I'll take a bearing. Ooh, I feel like some donuts. Let's go across town and get some donuts. She'd be down for all of that.
So they also call it tea hunting, fox hunting, bunny hunting, and bunny chasing.
See, but
Somebody
where I
mentioned
come
that the
from,
other day.
Yeah, where I come from, bunny chasing means something else. But yeah,
Yeah.
Well, yeah, there's a couple types of bunny chasing.
But,
and so does
yeah.
fox hunting, really. I mean, that's two different things.
couple of different names, and
Maybe
I don't-
three.
I don't know really. Yeah, maybe a few different names, but I don't really know the history of fox hunting. Does it say there at all? Like,
It doesn't. It didn't say anything about history of it.
I got to assume that since there was radios, there was some kind of signal direction finding, fox hunting kind of thing. Otherwise,
Did you guys do that in the service? When you were?
no.
Somebody did, guaranteed.
No, yeah, somebody did. I can go on. I'll tell you offline what my original job was supposed to be in the military, but yeah, no, I didn't.
Are you gonna have to kill me afterwards or what?
No.
Okay. I'd tell you, but I'd have to kill you.
Yeah, I'm not.
Shoot
I'm not
ya.
at liberty to discuss it.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you
Publicly.
offline. Not that the CIA is gonna think that's okay. But yeah, somebody did. I'm sure. Absolutely. That would be a cool job.
Oh, Philip says that he thinks that Rob's club does it monthly.
That's a good way to get really good at it.
Yeah. Somebody's going to get good at it eventually.
It's a lot of fun to do, though. I tried it that one time, and like I said, I wasn't set up properly, so I'm probably going to wind up getting that attenuator kit and building that out, and then going out and trying it again. I mean, you can get almost all of the equipment if you don't already have almost all of it for, like I said, less than $100, and then you can just go put the Fox somewhere and then practice your skills to try and find it.
That
before
would
you go
probably be
out.
a fun one for me, for the grandkids as they get a little bit older, you know?
Got to get
They
them.
would probably, instead of Easter egg hunt, there's one special Easter egg. You guys have to find it with this radio. Give them
Would be-
like $5 or something.
It would be cool. You know, I mean, if you wanted to experiment even and maybe you didn't have any other abilities, all you really need is Yagi and just point it around to a you know, an area like a repeater, like tune into a repeater, even if it's like a NOAA weather radio repeater, and just kind of start zooming around to see the signal. Oh, it's the strongest here, and kind of start to give you an idea. Hey, maybe maybe you do the same kind of deal with an AM radio and some stray RF around your house.
Yeah, I've
You
done
know.
that before.
Yeah, you
know,
have a
but
video on your channel with that Grundig, right, dude?
Yeah, and I think I did it with the 705 as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I remember the 705 one.
yeah.
The 705 is good for that. It wasn't much good for breaking pileups the other day.
You just don't have the right
Well-
technique, Chuck. I'm disappointed.
I guess, man. Well, I didn't have a whole lot of time either.
So Plasma's asking a good question. Can you make a dual band tape measure Yagi? And the answer to that is yes. There's a company called Arrow Antenna that makes those. And what you'll find is sometimes the 70 centimeter element is one way and the 2 meter element is the other way. And then you can rotate them. And Arrow sells a duplexer option. And it's really good for working satellites because sometimes they'll listen on one frequency and transmit on another. So that way you have both
And-
antennas handy.
That elk antenna is actually 70 and 2 meter both. Also, it's a.
Do you have that
that's
elk
It's a
antenna
log.
somewhere?
I do have that. I don't see it sitting here.
And technically, the only person that needs to have a license to do this is the person who is operating the Fox, the person who's in charge. Anybody
don't have
else
it here.
can operate the radio in receive-only mode to find the Fox. It just requires skills, not a license.
Yeah, I think it's out in my trailer. Getting ready for that big trip. Yeah, because anybody can listen, and that's all you're doing.
I probably have another suggestion as far as if you're out there looking for, you know, if you're fox hunting, where maybe a beneficial spot to start would be. And I don't know this for sure, but I base this off of when I used to work at the internet company. I would be climbing the towers. Height was might, right? Because the higher up you are, the clearer line of sight
Oh,
you
yeah.
have, the better opportunity you're. Listen, if you're on the ground and the fox is on the ground, you pan here and you know there's a strong signal this way. But if you're up high at like on a tower, on a cell phone tower, for example, you pan down, you know that it's this direction, but then you pan down and you know it's this direction and it's out this far. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, you can do some math? Cool.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, it's all about that a squared, b squared, c squared thing.
Yeah, well, so you would know how high off the ground you are, and you would know the angle of the dangle, so you could
Yeah.
do some
The Papa
trigonometry.
Dudes. Yeah, I think it's called Papa Dudes theory.
Yeah, Pythagoras.
Pythagor dude.
Yeah, there you go.
But I mean, in all honesty, I, in my opinion, believe that the higher you are to start off on your hunt, the better.
And a lot
So,
of people will do that. They'll go to the highest part of town and aim around.
Right. That makes sense.
I just can't pronounce that word, Pythagoras.
There you go.
Pythagoras.
Yeah,
Good
I gotta
job.
I gotta go slow, and they're like, "What's wrong with that guy?"
I like Joe Brett's comment when he mistyped it better than when he corrected it. I attempted to make a dual band tape measure Yagi. It was more dangerous than it was fictional, and he meant to say functional, but I think fictional made more sense.
Well, actually, there's a lot. Just to answer Plasma's things, there's a lot of multi-band antennas. My big Yagi on my tower is what's 10, 15, and 20. So, yeah, all
You
through
can stay
one
home and
piece of
use your
coax.
rotator.
You know what? 90% of the time, mine's pointed at your house. Did you hear that? Did you hear that guy from Wisconsin on my video though? He was
I did
freaking
not.
loud.
I was
That
too busy
the last
listening to the guy from Illinois who joined the stream on time.
Oh,
I'm one of the two.
I got an extra couple subs tonight on that video.
Excellent.
Good.
It's because I
Thanks,
shouted very
thanks
loudly.
to To.
Yeah. Why are you not subscribed? Speaking of subscribing, this is a good channel to subscribe to. Also, there's a little
Yeah.
button right down below there. That would be cool if you clicked it.
Oh,
if
is it
it's
supposed to be
if it's
set?
not already,
Oh,
it's supposed to be gray, not red.
no,
Chuckle.
mine's black. Oh, mine's gray. Yeah, gray and
Yeah, see, now
black
I just
bell.
said it wrong and lost half my subscribers. Oops.
But what do you think about using an antenna, a Yaki that is not intended for that frequency that you're trying to find?
Yes, that's actually a good idea as well. So not only, I'm glad you mentioned that, not only is your antenna able to be attenuated by folding it in and making it non-resonant on the frequency that you're trying to listen to, you can also tune your radio to a frequency that's a couple of cycles off, and that will help you when you get closer into it as well.
Yeah, so I was at Dayton one year, and I bought a Yaki that I thought was for 2 meters, but it's actually a Yaki that's for like airband or something weird. I don't know, but
So
I do
122 versus 140 something.
right. But I guess I could cut it, but I do tend to use that for being able to sway around and kind of just hear what's going on.
So if your Fox Hunt transmitter is broadcasting on 146.52, for example, first off, it'll get found really quick because there's like 5 hams that just want to keep that frequency clear for emergency use only. So they will find it and take it out of service real fast. But you could put it on 146.50 instead of 146.52, and you'd be able to hear the signal when you got closer in, but it would be attenuated that way.
Yeah, what's interesting, if you ever you take your radio and just click it like 5 at a time, you'll still pick guys up on FM.
Right, you're
quite a
slightly
ways.
deviating from the center of frequency.
But
However,
it gets, like you're
still-
saying, if you want to practice with that, yeah, it gets weaker each time. Usually, if you have a good signal to start with.
if you're going to use a spectrum analyzer to track RF, you need to be very careful. I know I said that already, but I'm going to reiterate. I can't be responsible if you.
How
fire
do you
your
know
spectrum
that?
analyzer.
How do you know that?
It wasn't me, but there was a guy at our company who he was using a spectrum analyzer. It was like our new, and I mentioned $20,000 because at the time they were really expensive. I think it was an HP, and too strong of a signal will definitely fry out the sensitive spectrum analyzer. It wasn't me. It was not me.
Yeah, so this is kind of a
talked about
hard
that quite
video
a bit,
to talk
right?
about
Too.
on live stream because we can't go out and demonstrate this. 'Cause
Yeah.
I would know that the Fox is in this small square space that I'm in.
Yeah, it is. I mean, but I think it's good just to kind of get the idea out of people's minds. And I don't know, maybe T.O. and I will meet up and we'll
Oh, that would
fox,
be awesome.
We'll fox on each other here soon. We have nothing else to do because it's so cold.
We'll have to go into the ice rink so that it's warmer.
Right.
It's been cold here too, but not as cold as you guys are.
Well,
Cold
Dude was
for
telling me
us,
he had
I
to use
guess.
both of his hands to count the temperature, and I came up short. I didn't have to use any hands to count the temperature.
Right.
Did you guys both get that storm the other day?
That ice storm was
The one that
bad.
was coming in?
I didn't
Yeah,
get it.
you didn't get it?
Yeah, the ice storm was
False
bad.
alarm, huh?
So Gordo's saying he's been picking up a load of CW on airband frequencies, and that's actually the airport identifiers that you'll hear. And if you don't know this, the autopilot in the airplane actually flies on a radio direction beacon. So that's another way to deal that.
Who taught you that?
I went to ground school for learning how
Oh.
to fly, and that's how they
okay.
taught us. And then I realized that the
thought-
rules for passing an aviation test are way more difficult than a ham extra license. And I already have enough regulation in my life.
If you go to the ARRL's website, it's ARRL.org/direction-finding. There is a list of resources in there that you might be able to use here. I'm going to post it. It's going to be posted under T.O.'s name because I'm not on YouTube. I don't have
Yeah.
YouTube.
That one came up for me too.
Are you impersonating me?
I said I was going to do it.
Yeah.
But there is quite a bit of articles here too, and I mean we all know that the ARRL has they do have a decent resource as far as categories go and organization to those categories. So check it out. I mean,
So Gordon's asking a real quick question here, which is a good one. Can you use handheld scanners to Fox Hunt? And the answer is
Yeah.
yes, as long as it's able to pick up that frequency. Do scanners have
Well-
built-in signal meters?
Well, we could find out. I think it depends on the scanner. I want to say like the DSD. What are those famous SDS 100s? I think they have like it'll show you the signal strength and everything like that. But if you order a cheaper one, I don't think they do. So again, I think it depends. In fact, I'm almost positive the SDS 100 does signal strength dB meter.
I also put another link in there to another site that has some
RSSI. It's called RSSI.
In case you guys haven't guessed yet, this is Smokin' Ape operating the Coffee and Ham Radios account, and he's our resident scanner guru. So, and
I've
then
got a
Nico says
scanner,
that
but
he's
it's
got
just sitting there. Oh, here. This one says, Fox hunting, getting young people hooked on adventure of ham radio.
one. It's not Ape,
It's not Ape?
right?
Really?
And
I
yes,
just
that
keep
was a shuttle
posting all
mission.
these.
Where did dude say he was going?
Did he leave? Sorry, I'm just I'm posting on another site here. I'm just looking at different sites for people. He did. Oh, he's right there. His chair's there. It's got
Most
that
important part.
moo chair. Shh, he's back.
I'm going to see if I can't pull up an example of the RSSI or signal strength with the DM1801. Actually, it might not even show, though. Oh, well.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it did. It did barely. Right when you
gotta
got
give it a half
well
a
when it
second to
focused. I think. Yeah.
Focus.
You know, I think one of my little GMRS radios actually did have the meter actually worked, and it was kind of a Bofang, I think, in some way.
A GMRS radio with a signal strength meter. Nice. There's some spots where GMRS is more popular than ham radio, even though it's less taxing but more taxing to get the license. See what I did there?
Mm-hmm.
Nico's right. The easiest way to get a young person interested in amateur radio fox hunting is to duct tape their phone to the fox and then hand them a Baofeng to go find it.
Probably.
So here's an example.
Right there.
Yep.
So,
Minus
like, right
82
now-
dBm.
Right now, I don't have a signal. So if you guys are curious and you're going to use like a radio like this for fox hunting, as the dBm goes, what would be up, or it goes more towards zero, your signal strength is getting stronger and stronger at that point.
Is that something you programmed into that radio because they opened it up or something? You said.
Yeah,
Is
this
that the one you're talking about?
This is the DM1801, and with the OpenGD77 software, they've enabled it so that the RSSI functionality is there, and it works or whatever.
He's starting to talk like Abe.
Saying things that are all nouns that
Saying, yeah.
none of us have heard.
Yeah.
Well, let's Google it. What?
it.
I'm going
I
to
might
give you
actually had some more.
official
here.
definition. RSSI is received signal strength indicator.
Nice.
It's a measurement of how well a device can hear a signal
Check
from
this out.
another device.
We should do
And
a
it
show
is-
on OpenGD77.
Man, eBay's got a bunch of stuff for this.
Chuck's out shopping. He's going to be a fox hunting pro by next weekend because it's going to take like 5 days for all the stuff to get there and get assembled.
No, I was just clicking on different things that came up when I searched for fox hunting.
And that's about all I know about
Here's a
fox
Hackaday.
hunting.
Hackaday is an awesome website.
Hackaday is a good website, and there's a lot of cool projects here. I'm actually going to link anybody who might be interested in the Arduino projects. Arduino,
Whoa, that's weird. I know this guy that posted on here. His name's Dane Bramage.
Let me just go ahead
Nice.
and get to my.
It's funny because I do know that guy. If it's him, interesting.
See here. So, this is a link to the Arduino Fox Hunt, we'll call it. And
Liberty,
if you
I don't know why, but when I read that, I thought you said fox hunting could save 2022.
It could. Make 2022 great again with fox hunting.
There's the
But
Arduino
really-
Fox Hunt link.
This little Arduino box is pretty cool. I mean, all you really need is an Arduino, a capacitor, some jumper wires, an LED. LED's optional, but the way the LED works on there is every time, because it's like you could say your Arduino randomly transmit. Anytime it starts to transmit, it starts flashing the LED in Morse code, so you know that it's transmitting. And that way, if there's a problem, you can use the toggle switch that you have to use for that project to shut it off. Maybe I'll just pull this up real quick.
Yeah, why don't you share that out?
Pull
Excuse
it
me.
up.
What is Arduino? Arduino is a single chip circuit board that has a bunch of supporting software and connectors on it so that you can easily interface your computer to it to get it to do something that you want autonomously after you unplug it from the computer. That's a whole lot of language to say. It's a little mini circuit board that you can program and set it off to do a real simple task that you'd like for it to do. Like Dude and I made a antenna analyzer controller out of it. And then Dude's also got a keyboard, a hotkey button array for winning the FT8 off with it.
Yep, and it's the same kind of thing that I'm using for the little Saiku box as well.
You've got one sitting
although
right there almost.
That's a Pico. Yeah, here. Inside there's a little device, and that's the Arduino, and all these wires are hooked up to each of the buttons, and it's programmed that if I hit this button, it activates that GPIO or pin port, and then it allows you to do whatever you programmed it to do. So if we take a look at this device here, and I think we're probably going to plan on maybe building one of these at one point. But if we take a look at this, this is the Arduino Fox Hunter, and so your Baofeng is going to go into this cable here. Put a toroid in line because if you have a cheap wire, you might get some kind of weird
Interference.
interference.
RFI.
Goes into this board here. It's all powered by a 9-volt battery, and of course your Baofeng. And they actually do make these Fox Hunters that some guy has made it so it hits the back two wires of the Baofeng battery, so it runs off the Baofeng. But this one is a 9-volt, and it has a relay switch on here. So let's just ignore the capacitors and everything. The Arduino's under this board here with the relay. So what happens is the Arduino, for example, is programmed, and all the code is actually provided here too. These are the parts lists. I'll get to what happens here in a second. All the code is actually here already. You see this? So it says, hey, if you hooked up to your relay to pin 12 and then pin 13 is a tone circuit, and it gives all the Morse code, and it basically says at random intervals or whatever interval you decide, go ahead and key up and identify in Morse code your call sign, which then gives the other people the opportunity to listen and try to find the signal in a certain amount of time while it's keying up. Well, the nice thing about that, though, is the code's already there, so all you have to do is put it together, right? This is a very basic project, but you have to just put everything together, the capacitors and all this stuff, and then once the Arduino says it's time to transmit, it sends that code out on one of those GPIOs, pin 12, for example, and that activates, puts a little voltage through there, and it activates the relay. Then the relay, in turn, keys up the Baofeng, and this is where you're going to start to hear your so pretty simple, but it is kind of cool. And this is the parts list, and look at this guy's name is Mike Myers.
Mike Meyer,
Who wrote the code, and then N. Ferrier, he's the one who kind of wrote this whole article, and he did a really good job writing the article. Very well documented, So if this is something you'd be interested in doing, it probably wouldn't take you more than a couple hours, provided you had all the parts. And here it is. If you guys could read schematics, I can't. There they are. But, again, I think this is something that we'll probably work on doing here one day in the future.
Definitely.
Oh,
And,
it's 8 o'clock.
Chuck is reminding us that Communications and Cigars is up next, everyone. There's a link to the video in the chat. And if you head over there, tell him that T.O. sent you. And we'll make sure to
T.O.
say hi to
sent you.
John Kruk when we get over there.
Yeah.
Thanks for being awesome, everybody. We'll see you
yeah,
in the
thanks
next
for everybody.
go fox hunt, hunt some bunnies.